Welcome back, everybody. Today we're doing a deep dive into the world of Tony Buzbee.
Tony Buzbee.
Yeah, this lawyer who's been making headlines
Yeah.
with some pretty big cases lately.
Big cases.
We've got a YouTube video transcript and a few online articles to help us break it all down.
Right.
So let's dive right in.
Sounds good.
You know, you might have heard about Buzbee's time in the military,
Okay.
but have you ever thought about
Yeah.
how that might have actually shaped his law career?
It's pretty interesting, right?
Yeah.
We've got a former recon Marine officer,
Yeah.
rose to the rank of captain,
Wow.
and then graduates summa cum laude from law school.
That's impressive.
And that's like discipline and strategic thinking, like honed to a razor's edge, you know?
Yeah, it's not your typical
No.
lawyer origin story. And then when you see his firm, the Buzbee law firm,
Yeah.
bringing in a reported $10 billion for its clients,
Wow.
it makes you wonder, is there a connection between that Marine training
Yeah.
and his success in these high-pressure legal battles?
I think it's definitely possible.
Yeah.
A lot of the cases that I've seen involve people going up against these powerful entities,
Right.
corporations, even governments sometimes.
Wow.
It's almost as if he's drawn to representing the underdog,
Yeah, that's a good point.
like a modern day Robin Hood kind of thing.
And speaking of high-profile cases,
Yeah.
the one that's really put Buzbee in the spotlight lately
Right.
is his representation of over 150 alleged victims of
Yeah.
Sean Diddy Combs.
Sean Diddy Combs.
That's right.
Yeah, this case is particularly, it's complex.
Yeah.
Not just because of the number of alleged victims, but
Yeah.
also the nature of the accusations.
It's serious stuff.
Yeah, we're talking about sexual misconduct allegations,
Yeah.
including drugging and assault,
Wow.
and some even involving minors.
Right.
It's very serious.
I was reading about these freak-off parties
Oh, yeah.
that Buzbee mentioned in one of the articles.
Okay.
And it sounds like these parties were where a lot of the
Yeah.
alleged misconduct took place.
Right.
But what I found really chilling was his mention of a drug called xylazine
Xylazine.
being used in these situations.
Right. Xylazine is
Yeah.
it's a powerful sedative,
Uh-huh.
and the fact that it's allegedly being used in these contexts
Yeah.
raises some serious concerns about, potential coercion and exploitation.
Right.
Especially when you think about the power dynamics at play,
Yeah.
especially in the entertainment industry.
Right.
The use of a drug like that,
Scary.
yeah, it adds another layer of
Yeah.
disturbing complexity to these allegations.
Yeah, it's incredibly unsettling.
It is.
And it's not just the drug aspect that's troubling either.
Right.
Some of the specific accusations are really horrifying.
Yeah.
I read about a potential 9-year-old victim
Wow.
who was allegedly abused
Yeah.
after auditioning for a record deal with Combs.
Wow.
There's also a 15-year-old girl
Oh, gosh.
who was allegedly taken to New York City
Oh, wow.
and abused by multiple people.
Buzbee's also shared details about
Yeah.
an underage boy who was allegedly forced to perform oral sex.
That's terrible.
These are not just allegations. These
Uh-huh.
are deeply personal and traumatic experiences that
Yeah.
really demand our attention,
Yeah.
regardless of how the legal proceedings unfold.
Absolutely. And, this Diddy case has even caused some conflict with Jay-Z,
Oh, really?
who is also named in the lawsuits.
I see.
It's a very tangled web of accusations and connections that
Yeah.
reaches pretty deep into the entertainment industry.
And it's important to remember,
Yeah.
this isn't just about Diddy and Jay-Z.
Right.
Buzbee himself has stated that he expects many powerful people to be exposed
I suppose.
through this process.
Wow.
It's a bold statement, and it sends ripples throughout the entire industry.
Yeah, that statement alone, kind of sends a ripple through the entire industry.
Right.
Like, uh-oh, who's next?
Right.
But if you look at this case in the context of Buzbee's whole career,
Yeah.
you start to see a pattern here.
Yeah.
He's not afraid to go up against the big guys.
He's not afraid of power.
Right. It's like
Right.
he's always fighting for the little guy.
Yeah, it's like his cases are these mini David and Goliath stories.
Exactly.
You think about his work with the victims of the Astroworld tragedy, for example.
Oh, yeah.
That $750 million lawsuit stemming from those tragic deaths at the Travis Scott concert.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a monumental case.
Absolutely it was.
It really highlighted how important safety is at these big events.
Yeah. Inadequate safety measures can have devastating consequences.
Yeah.
But it also shows Buzbee's willingness to hold people accountable,
Yeah.
no matter how famous or influential they are.
Yeah. And it's not just celebrities and corporations either.
Right. His client list is all over the place.
It is quite diverse.
He's worked with Jimmy Buffett, Deshaun Watson, former Governor Rick Perry,
Oh.
the state of Louisiana, Shell, Hilton, even Ford Motors.
It's a real mix of individuals, politicians, and huge companies.
It is. It's like a who's who of different walks of life.
Yeah, it's fascinating to me that he seems just as comfortable representing individuals
Right.
as he does representing these massive corporations.
It's like he sees the law as this tool.
Yeah, like a tool that can be used for good or for bad.
Right. And he's chosen to use it for good.
Exactly.
You know, one thing that really caught my eye in the Diddy case
Okay.
was the judge's decision about the anonymity of one of the alleged victims.
Oh, yeah, that was interesting.
It really made me think about how that ruling could affect future cases.
Yeah, the judge ultimately decided to let the victim stay anonymous
Right.
because of the potential for harassment and intimidation.
Yeah,
It could definitely set a precedent for other cases involving high-profile figures.
absolutely.
It might make it easier for other victims to come forward.
Right, without fear of public scrutiny.
Exactly.
That's a really big deal.
It is. It could have a huge impact.
These lawsuits could have a much wider impact than we initially thought.
Yeah, it's not just about holding individuals accountable anymore.
It's about potentially changing the legal landscape.
Absolutely, for victims of abuse, especially in the entertainment industry,
Right.
and maybe even beyond.
It brings up all sorts of questions about power dynamics,
Yeah,
the culture of silence surrounding these types of allegations.
that's a conversation that needs to happen.
It does, and it's a conversation that needs to lead to real change.
Right, and legal precedents like this could help empower victims.
Yeah.
And hold the abusers accountable.
And then there's the whole issue of Buzbee's personal views,
Oh.
which have been kind of front and center lately.
Right, especially with that Instagram post.
Yeah, his dog wearing that Trump 2024 t-shirt.
That caused quite a stir.
Yeah, some people were really critical of him.
Yeah, they argued that his political stance,
Right.
especially with all the controversy surrounding Trump,
Yeah.
could actually hurt the victims' cases.
It's a valid concern.
It is. It's tough to say for sure how it'll all play out.
Right.
Buzbee's personal views shouldn't really affect the legal side of things.
Yeah.
But we all know public perception and the media can have a big influence.
They can sway things.
Yeah, and how these cases are ultimately decided.
Yeah. It's crazy.
It's almost like a real-life legal drama
Yeah.
unfolding right in front of us.
But he's got all these layers.
Yeah, so much complexity and intrigue.
It goes way beyond the courtroom.
It does. It reminds us that law isn't just about legal strategies.
Right.
It's about people, their stories, their pursuit of justice,
Yeah.
and how power dynamics can get so messed up.
Yeah. It's a good point. It's a good reminder that these cases are about more than just legal arguments and headlines.
Right at the heart of it all, you've got the alleged victims.
Right.
Their stories are just incredibly disturbing. And it takes a lot of courage to come forward with these accusations.
It does.
Especially when the people they're accusing are so powerful and influential.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier the potential for these lawsuits to like start a ripple effect.
Right.
Maybe even lead to lasting change in the entertainment industry.
Hopefully.
So like, what do you see as the most likely outcomes here? Assuming that some or all of these allegations turn out to be true.
Well, if Buzbee wins these cases, I think it could force a real reckoning
Yeah.
with the power dynamics and the culture of silence that have been a problem in Hollywood for way too long.
It's about time. Right.
It really is. It's not just about holding a few individuals accountable.
Right.
It's about a broader conversation about systemic issues.
Right. How do we even prevent this kind of abuse from happening in the first place?
That's the big question.
Especially in industries where there's such a huge power imbalance.
Right. And are there any changes we can make to laws or industry regulations
Yeah.
that could actually protect these vulnerable people?
That's what we need to be thinking about.
These are all important questions that deserve serious consideration.
Yeah. And I think that judges' decision to grant anonymity to one of the alleged victims could really encourage other people to come forward.
Yeah, it could be a turning point where
Mhm.
people who have been suffering in silence finally feel like they can speak up.
And get justice.
Exactly.
It's like we're seeing a shift in the balance of power.
I think that's a possibility.
And with Buzbee's history of taking on these powerful figures and institutions,
Yeah,
it seems like he's in a good position to lead this charge.
he's definitely not backing down.
He's not. So where do we go from here?
Well,
What are some key takeaways for our listeners as they keep following these cases and Buzbee's career?
I think the most important thing is to stay informed.
Right.
Really think critically about the information that's out there.
Right.
And remember that we're talking about real people's lives here.
Yeah.
The outcome of these lawsuits could have a huge impact, not just for the entertainment industry,
Right.
but for how we as a society deal with issues of power, abuse, and accountability.
That's a great point. Well said. And as we've seen throughout this whole deep dive, Tony Buzbee, with his unique background, his sharp legal mind, and even his controversial personal views.
It's all part of the story.
He's definitely a force to be reckoned with.
He is. There's no denying that.
So whether you agree with his methods or his politics, there's no question he's making a big impact.
He really is.
On the legal landscape and forcing us to have these important conversations.
It's about time.
About justice and accountability.
Exactly.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of Tony Buzbee.
It's been a wild ride.
It has. It's a world of high-stakes legal battles, complex moral questions, and the potential for real, lasting change.
Hopefully.
Remember, power can be challenged.
It can.
And truth can be found.
Right.
Even when it seems impossible.
Even when the odds are stacked against you.
That's right. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring.
Keep learning.
And keep diving deep.